Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sick, Robin Washett, as we get you ready for Saturday's game against Northern Iowa to watch a ranked Nebraska football team take the field in Memorial Stadium. It feels good to say that, guys.
Yes. Yeah, it's been, 2019 was the last time Nebraska was ranked. It was September 7th of 2019 when they lost to Colorado in a horrific meltdown. I'm going to say horrific meltdown, and they tumbled out of the rankings. Tumbled out of the rankings for good. Tumbled out of the rankings until Sunday when they found themselves 23 and 24 in the polls.
All right, well, we've got a full show here on tap, and before we get to that, the Husker Online Show is brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. What if your home could be the safest, most comfortable place for care? At StayHome.Care, we don't just provide services, we partner with you to maintain independence in your own sanctuary. Twice honored as the top home healthcare service provider, our commitment to exemplary care shines through every tailored service we deliver. Inspired by founder Nina Chase's own experiences as a refugee and a caregiver, StayHome.Care is deeply rooted in passion for in-home personal care. This personal touch means we offer a variety of services, from household chores and meal preparation to companionship and personal care, all designed specifically to meet your unique needs. Our diverse clientele includes the elderly, children with disabilities, and individuals recovering from illnesses and surgeries. With comprehensive care that guarantees safety and comfort, we bring peace of mind to our clients and their families. Behind this promise stands our dedicated team of 113 professionals, supported by fair wages and benefits, focusing solely on providing the best care. Visit StayHome.Care to learn more and discover how we put our hearts into everything we do, making your life not just easier, but better. Thank you again to our title sponsor of the Husker Online Show, StayHome.Care. Okay, let's delve into it, guys, because Nebraska gets the win over Colorado. It was a magical night. It's the first of 3 night games in a row. And it was kind of the best of both worlds for Nebraska. They played well. They did a lot of good things, but there's still a lot of correctables that came out of that game as well. And for Matt Rule, I think that's the perfect storm to motivate this team now for this game against Northern Iowa.
It's a good assessment, Sean. I mean, they're really focusing on perimeter blocking. That 2 days in a row, that has been cited as something that was substandard by Rule on Monday, by Satterfield Marcus on Tuesday. They don't feel good about all of the special teams. In fact, even Tony White took some ownership in that, the defensive coordinator, who noted that 2/3 of the players on special teams are defenders. He says that bugs the hell out of me. Oh yeah, there's plenty there to motivate.
Yeah, there's a reason Matt Rule called it my kind of game, to where you win and you beat a bitter rival by 18 points, and there's plenty that you still have to fix. So you're not worried about riding too high after a victory like that, because you turn on the film. He said he sat down with them on Sunday for the film session. Rule did, and they had an over hour-long film session. He called it a brutally honest film session, where he laid it all out there in front of the entire team to kind of raise the level of accountability. He wanted to make sure that guys understood that, we're all in this together, and I'm not going to pull you aside and tell you, hey, you might want to clean this up. Nope. If you screw up, it's going to be out there for everybody to see, and you need to take ownership of that.
Yeah, I thought the quote of the week from Matt Rule was, there's 3 kinds of football: losing football, winning football, and championship football. Right now we're playing winning football, and it's the small pieces. They're playing football that could win you 6 or 7 games. But to get to that 8, 9, or even higher mark, you have to clean up some of these things. And I've never seen a coach, especially this early in a player's career, tell the offense they need to play and meet the standard of a true freshman quarterback. I mean, that was an amazing moment to hear a head football coach of Matt Rule's stature recognize a true freshman this early in his career and challenge guys that have been at Nebraska now 6 years to play at his level.
This is not a pat on the back, but I said going into the opener, on the list of things to be concerned about, Dylan was not a concern. Because his preparation is exquisite. I mean, he's always fully prepared. I just don't worry about him. And you see it the way he operates. He operates in a very clean manner. He doesn't look skittish. He looks like he's very much in control, just like you would want Daniel Jones to be, and he's not. He's just
Thanks. I appreciate that. It was needed.
It's true though, and we've seen quarterback play here where guys they just didn't look like they're in control. I guess we got to be kind of careful about overpraising Dylan, but I always say through 3 public appearances, really strong. Spring game, UTEP, Colorado.
No turnovers.
A+, A+, A+.
Now he's come close to some turnovers and has been fortunate that they weren't caught.
True.
But you know what? Sometimes
that's every game.
Yeah. I mean, that's every game. So that's the biggest probably standout thing for him. I mean, obviously he's made some big throws and looked cool under pressure, but he's not doing those detrimental freshman mistakes that you worried about going into the season, not just with him, but with any true freshman, how that learning curve was going to go. And he said today that he feels like the nerves are gone. Like he feels like he's fully settled in now, and quote, now the offense can really take that next step. So I think they're going into this week with intentions of kind of changing the narrative around this offense a little bit, especially with the way that game went down the stretch against Colorado. They started off hot, but as Marcus Satterfield noted today, that was when they were on the script. When they got off that script, things started to get a little hairy. And I think that the idea that they kind of toned things down in the second half because they didn't want Raiola to make a mistake, that wasn't the case. They were worried about the other guys doing their jobs and basically trying to just get through that game because of all the penalties, because of all the missed assignments, because of all the bad blocks on the perimeter. Their offense was so limited that it wasn't a matter of we don't want to put too much on Dylan. It was a matter of nobody else is playing up to where he needs to be.
Well, and the other thing, guys, is they have a schedule that's allowed them to get through these things. Where a year ago, you're on the road back-to-back weeks in sold-out venues against Power 4, Power 5 teams.
Right.
And you didn't have that luxury. But you're in the friendly confines of Memorial Stadium, and that mattered against Colorado early. That rattled the Buffaloes. It was clear. The first incompletion of the game, that crowd noise, I think, impacted the game in itself, the way Nebraska was playing. So I think there is something to be said about the schedule. And now they get the perfect opponent, in my opinion, for week 3 before what will probably be a ranked Illinois team coming to Lincoln for week 4.
A perfect opponent in part because UNI, Northern Iowa, really emphasizes the rushing game. They averaged 298.5 yards rushing in their first 2 games. Look at their running back depth chart. They have a 240-pounder, a 231-pounder, and a 220-pounder.
They like them big.
Yeah, and that workload's been pretty even with those guys too.
Has it really? Yeah. So the 3 guys on the depth chart, they're big guys, and they they run 12 personnel. They're just going to hammer it at you, and that gets you ready for the Big Ten, as Tony White mentioned.
I didn't even know teams had running backs that big anymore.
Well, you've heard of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Brandon Jacobs.
Like a whole room full of them.
Right. No, I know. I get it. I mean, Nebraska has a couple of them. They have a couple of them.
Not 240.
So they're big and they're physical, but they also scored 1 offensive touchdown against St. Thomas, a Division II school. So
easy now. Don't
schematic.
They're not Division II anymore. They
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas moved up.
They're FCS.
Okay. Well, sorry, St. Thomas. Either way, they needed a block punt to win that game against St. Thomas, which UNI is supposed to be one of the best FCS programs out there, but they've fallen on hard times over the last few years. Yeah, but okay, they just beat St. Thomas, and they played Valparaiso in their opener. So what I'm saying is, they're on the brink of potentially having their 3rd straight losing season under Mark Farley, and he's been there for 20 plus years. So they're on a dip right now. And so Nebraska gets a good opportunity to play schematically and physically a team that will prepare them for the Big Ten. I'm just not overly concerned.
Look at these Valpo guys.
Nebraska can be concerned. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nebraska can be concerned. They can say all the right things. But me personally,
they're little.
I am not worried whatsoever. The spread's almost 31 points in Nebraska's favor. I think they will cover that.
I mean, look at these Valpo guys trying to tackle a 240-pound running back.
God, yeah, maybe it's those running
high
back.
School team.
That running back number 2 looks impressive physically.
Valpo looks like a Division III team.
I mean, UNI's always had guys. Again, they're like an NFL feeder. They have FCS level, but for whatever reason, they've kind of hit a funk. And a lot of it has to do with their resources. They have no NIL money. There's no investment into their athletic department. They had the state football championships at the Unidome there, and rain was dripping through the dome.
The dome.
So like they're going through it right now.
All right, when we come back, we'll delve into the offensive storylines. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Wash at the Husker Online Show. Again, our title sponsor is StayHome.Care. It is a phenomenal company that provides a wonderful service, especially if you have family members that need that extra assistance, whether that's picking up a prescription, just coming over to help them around the household with simple daily chores. Check them out at StayHome.Care. They are this proud title sponsor here of the Husker Online Show. We're also brought to you by CHI and football. Winning starts on the field, and it's about knowing your opponent. For men, prostate cancer is one of the toughest. In fact, prostate cancer is still their number one cause of cancer death. Let's look at the stats. This year, nearly 300,000 men across the country will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and 2,000 will be right here in Nebraska. A well-executed blitz can turn the game around. This September, during Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, CHI Health is reminding men to stay on the offense with a great strategy for early detection. It's been shown to improve treatment success and get more men over the goal line. Here's the game plan. Men age 50 and older should talk with their healthcare provider about when to begin prostate cancer screenings. If you don't have a provider, go to chihealth.com and to find a provider at CHI Health at a clinic near you. Don't drop the ball, Husker Nation. Let's stay on offense and beat prostate cancer at its own game. Get started today at chihealth.com. Simple, you're over 50. Get your appointment lined up there.
All right, Sean, I'll do that.
I'm closing
Thanks
in on
for
50.
revealing the personal information.
I think we all know you're over 50.
You've said it multiple times.
58 for the record.
For the record.
Let's delve into offensive headlines, guys. And we hit on this earlier, the penalties, but I want to hit more on Dylan. I mean, what do you want to see from Dylan Raiola in a game like this as we get ready for Illinois, who right now leads the nation in turnover margin? I mean, they're going to be a much stiffer test in 2 weeks.
Wow, I'm going to just say this. I want to see some more wow plays now. If he clear. I did notice, by the way, against Colorado before the game, he looked awfully comfortable. Like he did not look nervous at all. So I think what he said at the podium, now I didn't hear it, but the way you represented it means something to me. If you feel that comfortable, let it loose. Let it go now. I think he's done that to a certain extent, and some of that's dependent on play calls and what the coach is asking of him and all that. But he's a hell of a talent, and he can make some tough throws. Make them. Get it going now.
Keep taking care of the football.
Yes.
Take some shots. And I want to see him work the middle of the field a little bit more.
Okay.
Particularly, I want to see if tight ends get more involved. I mean, you saw that seam route on that 2nd and 24 where he hit Borkacher down the seam. It was a perfect strike for a first down. I think that element could do a lot to help those perimeter guys get more involved on some of those deep shots. When you have Fedoni streaking down the middle or Borkacher or running or whatever it is,
Whoever it is,
work that part of the field a little bit more. You go back to that UTEP game, they did that great. Like I thought that they were getting a lot of conversions, especially on third downs with some of those over the middle routes. And so I'd like to see that continue much more than we saw against Colorado.
One thing too, I thought it was interesting to hear Marcus Satterfield say they didn't run a lot of those perimeter screenplays a year ago.
right?
And I think for a number of reasons. Number one, they didn't have the consistency at quarterback play. If you misfire that throw, what happens?
Pick six.
Yeah, it goes back
And
the
so
other
Dylan
way. Yeah.
runs that well. And they also didn't have the bodies to block like that. I mean, you look at Nayor and Banks and Bonner. I mean, they're big bodies. And I think that it should be the challenge. You're bigger than 95% of defensive backs. Get out there and just hold your block. I mean, you should be able to hold the perimeter and break some of these for bigger plays. And Colorado a couple of times really read those great. Like Robin and I, like there was one where Travis Hunter almost baited the bubble screen, and it was like a Mel Kiper draft reel highlight where he
was like guarding two guys, and he blew up a little bubble screen on the perimeter.
It would be really hard for me as being Garrett McGuire to understand why my guys haven't been blocking hard on the perimeter. I don't understand it. Like what's holding you back on this?
Well, that's been the challenge. I mean, Rule said it. Satterfield said it, and even the players are talking about it. We talked to Jamal Banks.
Yeah, what did Banks say,
and
Robin?
Jalen Lloyd, and they both talked about it. And Banks was brutally honest because he's one of the guys the first guy that comes to mind because he's a starter. He's one of those big physical new receivers that was supposed to take that perimeter blocking to the next level. And he admits that it has not been where it needs to be. He says, that they need to work on having the mentality in your mind of I've got to go kill him when it comes to blocking. And so I think it starts with just coming in with the right mental approach to that because physically it shouldn't be a problem. You got to have the fire inside in between the ears to go do it. But then the other part of it too is there's got to be some consequences. The whole no block, no rock thing I think needs to apply. And they need to probably start making that more of a consequence. And they said after the game with the offense, particularly with the wide receivers, that there were a lot of tough conversations after that Colorado game. And that's kind of the message was if you can't do it, you aren't going to play. And Banks said there's no half and halves and there's no 1 foot in. That goes for everybody. So maybe now this is going to be kind of one of those ultimatum games where you either go out there and you block, especially against an inferior defense, or you're not going to play.
They're going to still play those guys. I don't think they're going to be like Banks and you can't play anymore.
But if you can't run a big part of your offense because guys aren't blocking, what does that negate part of their impact?
I don't know. It's just they just won a huge game, so I don't want to go too far down the road.
And Colorado's DBs were good.
I know.
Yeah,
you got NFL level DBs, obviously.
That's true, but I don't. The lack of when he's saying guys maybe didn't have both feet in. What's going on? I mean, there needs to be hard conversation.
The urgency.
Yeah, there needs to be. I mean, what?
I'm not talking like benching a guy, but maybe you start playing someone else who's more willing to block.
I just, as a human being, have a hard time understanding.
I like, Cardinal Nelson. I think he would lay some good blocks on the perimeter.
100.
Like that's a guy.
100.
And so we didn't see him on offense last week.
Well, he would hammer guys out there. You know that.
We didn't see him on offense last week, but evidently he played special teams. He wasn't listed in the initial participation report, but they have updated him that he played.
Sean, I tend to disagree with you. If there's a veteran out there who's not, if he shows up on film again this week with 1 foot in, you do go to Quinn Clark or you do go to Keenan Smith.
Yeah, it's one thing to not be able to block Travis Hunter. It's another issue to block you and I.
I don't care who it is. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
You go to Keelan Smith or Quinn Clark or Malachi Coleman. I wouldn't hesitate to. I mean, those guys can play. So that's an interesting conversation.
When you hope that they can get a lot of guys in this game because there just aren't going to be the rest of the way games like this. Left.
Like UTEP.
Where, so Matt Rule, they've managed it great where they didn't suit up everybody for Colorado because they knew they were going to play him, but I'd imagine they'll have a full 100+ suited up. And every guy got to play in the game pretty much against UTEP. But I would think this will be similar if it goes to plan.
Yeah,
right.
If it goes the first part,
that's right.
Because South Dakota State came in here one year and almost beat Nebraska.
What year was that? Do you remember, Robin?
Bo was the coach.
Yeah,
and they had that little running back. And he just
he played in the league.
Did he really?
What was his name?
Oh, I think they had another running back that. Okay, we're going.
Well, there was a phantom penalty too that Nebraska got the call on that took away a touchdown run.
Right.
And I mean, South Dakota State people will argue that doesn't get called. They could have won in Lincoln.
Oh, I remember
2010, Nebraska beat them 17-13. And
2010 was a good Nebraska team.
I know.
I remember Carl Pelini
17-3
asked some pretty tough questions after that South Dakota State game.
Oh, the Pelinis were upset after that one.
And I remember Carl, what he said was, we're in kind of a bend, don't break. And South Dakota State was moving the ball in the middle of the field and then not getting much in the red zones. Mm-hmm. And that was his argument. He said, yeah, I mean, we were giving up some stuff in the middle of the field, but once it got to the red zone, we weren't giving up anything. But it was still really, why are you screwing around with South Dakota State?
Yeah, they rushed for 143 yards. Kyle Minette had 113.
It happens. It happens. And Sean, you're right. I mean, I'm glad you added if it goes to plan. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people thought Notre Dame would steamroll Northern Illinois on Saturday. It didn't go
just
to plan.
Like Mike Riley thought in 2017.
Right.
Northern Illinois came here.
Yeah. It didn't go according to
the
plan.
AD got fired the next week.
Yeah.
And then Mike Riley got fired a few weeks later.
Right. Yeah. So no, I respect that. I respect that you say that. That's the way everybody's got to approach it.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we'll hit on defensive storylines heading into Northern Iowa. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut talking defensive storylines. Before we get into that, Husker Online Show again brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Phenomenal company right here in Nebraska that's there to help you and your families when you need assistance, whether it's, just getting a prescription for a loved one, grocery shopping, cooking, just somebody that can be an extra help to your family when you don't have the time to always do all the things needed. StayHome.Care is a great company, and we're proud to have them as our title sponsor of the Husker Online Show. Also brought to you by Babbel. Ever wanted to learn a foreign language? Don't have the time to do that? Babbel is a great option for you to learn a new foreign language, and they make it so easy. They have 10-minute quick lessons. They're crafted by over 200 language experts. You can start learning the new languages in as little as 3 weeks. Learn more about Babbel, and we've got a special as well here for our Husker Online listeners. Go to babbel.com/Husker, and you'll get 60% off. That's at babbel.com/Husker. That's spelled BABBEL.com/Husker. Rules and restrictions may apply. Thanks to Babbel for sponsoring us on the Husker Online Show. Okay, defensive storylines. Matt Rule made this comment after the game, or on Monday, I guess, that, we don't really have one star. Our defense is really the star of this football team. I thought that was a very defining comment as they start the week ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, they play really well as a team, and it should, because there's 7 seniors. Okay, guys, 7 seniors and 4 juniors on that defense starting. Their 11 starters are 7 seniors and 4 juniors. These guys, generally speaking, have been together, and it shows in the way they play. It's a very together unit. It's a very. Do you see many busts? Do you see many instances where you're like, what happened on that play?
The only time that's happened was the touchdown against UTEP. The long pass where Hartsock got beat.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Rob, I didn't think that it was horrible coverage.
No, it was just a good throw.
Bro, it was a good throw. So I wouldn't characterize that as a bust.
But that's like the
they
one.
Had a bust?
No. I mean, well, no.
I don't think they
I don't
have.
know. I mean, not like I'm like breaking down film on it or anything
Right.
like that. But like, yeah, to your point, like those just like, whoa, what are we doing here? Those types of plays have not happened.
We've and you know what? I'm going to tell you something. We've had those moments in the past.
I have said that verbatim many times over the last decade.
Right. We've seen instances, guys. Okay, here's something you don't see. You don't see palms up out there either. I can tell you when Frost was here and Chenander was here, there are too many instances when you're watching the game and you see guys look at each other with palms up, and they didn't know what was going on. You do not see that. And
Remember Georgia Southern?
Whoa, yeah.
Never forget.
Great.
Most yards ever given up in Memorial Stadium.
And that was after North Dakota, right?
It
was after North Dakota. Right. I remember against North Dakota, it was a big problem. I mean, that was the palms up game that I remember more than even Georgia Southern.
Or even Northwestern.
Yeah. So you don't see that. Tony White so far hasn't played at a very high level.
And
Let's
he's
just
got
see
a presence about him as a leader.
It's really come out this year too.
I wonder how much of that presence is he just knows he has a good defense. I mean, you can tell.
Yeah, you don't talk like that if you don't know you got dudes.
Yeah, and Rule, you got to listen closely to Rule because he talks so fast. But what he said a couple things yesterday that were really interesting. And one was he thought they'd score 40 and give up only 10. I was like, wait a second. So you thought this defense would give up only 10 to Colorado? That tells you Rule's very. I mean, I don't even know if he meant to say it publicly, but he did. And it told me, oh, yeah, he thinks this is a very good defense.
And I really like, though, the approach that Tony White had this week, coming off such a stellar performance. They're getting lauded by everybody, talking about being maybe one of the best defenses in the country. You know what he told him? He said, you're the worst defense in the country because it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
And until you show Wednesday that you're better than today, you haven't got any, like what happened on Saturday doesn't matter. So like, I think that mentality, and you got to have the right guys to like really have that latch on. I think they do. Having so many veteran players and so many leaders that are going to echo that message is what really makes it work. But that's the mentality this defense has. And that's, I think, a big part of why they're so effective.
When we've talked about lack of draft picks for Nebraska, it's clear they have multiple now on this defense. And let's start with Tommy Hill. That was an NFL matchup he had against Travis Hunter. He was targeted 5 times against Travis Hunter, and he only allowed 45 yards receiving and only 12 yards after the catch against as good of a receiver as the Huskers are going to face. Now, Ohio State's got some guys too, and USC does. But Tommy Hill really made a name for himself, I think, in this game and has put himself in the conversation to be a first, second round type pick.
He's in that conversation in part because he's just such a good looking player. He's got super long arms. He's 205. He's a 205-pound corner. Look at his arms, super long arms. He's very athletic. And you know what? It was Satterfield on Tuesday that was talking about Jacory Barney loves the game, plays it with joy, plays it like it's recess. Tommy Hill does too. Mm-hmm. Those guys, you can see they love it. Tommy, Robin, we did those interviews a few summers ago, and I did a couple with Tommy Hill that summer. And his love for the game really comes through. He loves it. He wants to be a pro.
I love the fact that he just went straight at Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter came in there and did their typical Colorado thing. It was just, yapping and talking trash and doing all that thing. Well, Tommy went right back at him. And you know what? He didn't just talk. He backed it up. And my
Hunter went towards their bench.
Yeah, my favorite line after the game was like, I told him it's going to be a long night. He wasn't talking much in the second half. Like, that's the type of swagger I want my number one cornerback to have all day and tomorrow.
I can't believe Hunter wasn't penalized. I mean,
he's trying to fight the whole team.
He stood over Nebraska's bench for a good 10, 15 seconds.
And no official even came close.
It was a drive there. I think Colorado was punting, right? So it wasn't like they were still on the field as a defense. And then he had to run off the field. He ran behind Nebraska's punt return unit. It was kind of an awkward moment.
Yeah, it's awkward
for him to get across the field back to the east sideline.
It's because Tommy Hill was in his head.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you want, like you said, from a corner. You really want that position to be occupied by guys that kind of have that I don't give a damn attitude.
There's a saying for that.
Let's go.
He's got that dog in him.
He's 100%.
Well, how about John Butler? I think he deserves some praise. You think John Butler wasn't chomping at the bit to go out Colorado's passing attack?
John Butler, I like the way they're playing. I can't remember what Cooper did in terms of like moving guys up to the line of scrimmage, but Butler moves them right up on them. But a lot of bump and run. You're seeing a lot of bump and run.
No, it's aggressive. Week one, they played more of a shell.
Did they?
A drop zone against UTEP by design.
They didn't show anything.
I mean, they were giving cushions to UTEP because they were just hoping their pass rush would force some rough passes and control the game, and that's what happened.
Boy, you just feel confident with Butler. Feel confident with that entire staff. Terrence Knight and Butler, obviously White. These are Dvorak. These guys got it going.
Butler was preparing game plans to go against Patrick Mahomes a year ago. So he's not intimidated by Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
No, he's not. And it's working. It's working. And I think it will continue to work.
All right. When we come back, we'll bring in Abby Barmore and we'll take your questions here in the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show, again, brought to you by StayHome.Care. They are a phenomenal company that we're proud to be linked up with here as they provide a unique service to help you with loved ones, to provide care and assistance. Could be as easy as helping with grocery shopping, picking up prescriptions, the errands that you want to be there to help the loved ones in your family, but don't necessarily have the time. Check them out at StayHome.Care. They're a local company with over 113 professionals that want to help you with the people that are most important in your life. And we're also brought to you by Tavern 180, a longtime supporter of the Husker Online Show, 30th and Yankee Hill Road. Some of the best steaks, if not the best steak you're going to get in Lincoln. Ooh. They have USDA prime ribeye. They have Wagyu.
Ooh, that's good.
Game changer.
Ahi tuna nachos.
Okay.
I mean, they got everything you could want on that menu at Tavern 180 in South Lincoln.
Okay.
The mozzarella flatbread pizza there too. Margarita flatbread pizza.
Listen to Tony Soprano over there.
It is a good it's one of my wife's favorite places.
Is that right?
To go
Tavern
there.
180.
Tavern
It's
180.
one of Lisa's favorite
30th
spots.
and Yankee Hill Road.
Good to know.
And they have brunch as well on the weekends.
Oh,
So
that's what I need, brunch.
if you've gone to the Husker game and
I missed the press conference because I was at Tavern 180
brunch in
brunch.
your PJs.
And they do the cocktails too with the dry ice, like at El Toro.
yeah.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh,
I need to venture over there.
Tavern 180, 30th and Yankee Hill Road. One of the best steaks you're going to find around Lincoln for sure.
Yep.
The Wagyu is phenomenal.
Oh, it is. I've had that. I sat down with Frosty and had one of those.
Yeah.
Back in the-
They
back in the day.
sponsored that event we did. Look at those fries. This is great. Tavern 180, thanks for the sponsorship. All right, let's bring in Abby Barmore.
Come on, Abby.
Enough food talk.
I'm getting hungry.
We should do a food show.
They used to bring
It would
food-
be good.
Hey, they used to bring food up here for the podcast we used to do with the McGowan brothers.
Yep.
Tavern 180
so
did?
much food. Yeah.
Tavern 180.
And all Bryce and Trey want to do is like eat like the lemon pepper chicken wings.
And they would just leave the Wagyu for Robin
the
and
chicken
I.
fingers. Yeah.
Well, can we get that kind of rolling again? Maybe with Tavern 180.
Sean, make some calls.
All right, let's get into the mailbag, Abby. Where are we
Okay.
going?
Our first one, which position group on offense would you like to see make the biggest improvement going into week 3?
Oh, receivers.
Yeah, just
Offense.
I want to see the receivers be more complete.
Yeah, receivers. You know, it's interesting. There's a former Georgia quarterback who does
Aaron Murray.
you guys are all over stuff. Aaron Murray identified the receiver group last week as
UTEP week.
UTEP week as a group that didn't impress him, which opened a lot of eyes on our message board and opened my eyes. And then you saw it materialize against Colorado. Those guys need to step up. The two big ones, Banks and Nayor, were basically non-factors. Yeah, and Bonner, non-factors in that game. They need to be factors.
Yeah, they're too good not to be.
Right.
And it wasn't just like a blocking issue. It was like just get slow coming out of their routes, out of their breaks. Like, I mean, you're too old and too good for that to be happening.
Aaron Murray does a very good podcast.
I didn't even know he did it until
It's a vidcast deal, right?
Vidcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's a vidcast.
All right, next question.
Okay. Which recruits are you watching to potentially commit to Nebraska after they attended the Colorado game?
Well, they got Christian Jones. That was big, number one player in the state. But there's really only 3 for 2025 left to track. Cortez Mills, who's committed to Oklahoma as a receiver. Dawson Merritt, a linebacker from Kansas City, who's committed to Alabama. Those are 2 of the bigger
And
ones.
Michael Terry.
And then Michael Terry, who remains open between Nebraska and Texas. So they have 19 commits for 2025, and they take all 3 of those guys. If they could get one of the 3, it'd be a massive victory.
There you go, Abby.
2026, Steve Wilfong put in 3 RPMs for Nebraska. Millard South tight end Isaac Jensen, Elkhorn North linebacker Jace Reynolds. Those 2 players have RPMs now for Nebraska. And then Orlando Seminole quarterback Michael Clayton.
Okay.
He's a 4-star quarterback that we saw throw at camp this summer. Those are the newer RPMs put in by On3 Steve Wilfong. So next question.
Outside of Dylan Raiola, who is the most impressive true freshman you've seen in
Oh,
Nebraska?
come on. Go ahead, Robin.
this year.
Yeah.
Barney.
Jacory Barney.
Or we can do ever.
Well, I'll just stick
Barney's
with this
pretty
year
easy.
because then we're going too far back. I'm going to go Jacory Barney. And what's unfortunate is that so many of his big plays have been negated by penalties. But when he has the ball in his hands, he is as dynamic of a playmaker as we've seen here in a long time. Just with his speed, his elusiveness, and his field vision, and the fact that he is a little guy. But when he got popped on that first big run, what did he do? As Matt Rule said, he jumped up and gave the first down point. And that just shows
Tough.
what he's all about. I
Tough.
love his swagger. I love his confidence, and his talent is undeniable.
When you say ever, I think you have to put Amon Green, Bobby Newcomb. Those are 2 that
Those are good ones.
and,
Sean.
and Ralph Brown. Those
Those
are
are good ones.
Those are probably the 3 when I talk about all-time. And I'm sure someone's going to nail me. I forgot somebody, but those are 3 that I remember as all-time freshmen at Nebraska.
Those were 3 great ones. Jacory Barney, Satterfield said a lot about him on Tuesday, and one of the things he approaches games and practice like it's recess. He just has a joy for the game, and you recruit that. You recruit players that love football, because I'm here to tell you, not all of them do. They don't all love it at the same level, for sure. He loves it. You can see it. And Rule, again, fast talker, but if you're listening, he said we got to get the ball more to him.
Hopefully that opens the door for more Miami players.
Yeah.
You know, if
that
you
hasn't
have-
been working out lately.
Why do you like Miami players?
Well, there's just a
There's a
different
reason.
skill set and speed level.
And when they're playing like midget football, it's serious. Like they're
There's
used
future
to the,
NFL dudes all over the midget football field.
yeah, they're used to the prep.
There's coaches yell at them.
Yeah,
Seriously.
When they're like 8.
right. Like Sean in his soccer team.
Yeah, exactly.
This
Hey, she just took it on the chin Saturday.
Yeah, you
We
need to
took a
get
tough
into
loss
you
Saturday.
need to get into some of them.
We played a good team though. The girls played
No
great.
excuses.
Hey, no excuses.
They Rule has mentioned that about those Florida guys, that they come ready mentally because they were challenged so much as kids.
Mhm.
And Barney,
You see it.
he's a beautiful player to watch. And what you see, this is going too long. I'll wrap it up, Sean. If we have that benefit of sitting up top. In two players you notice that have so much explosion are playing, Dante Dowdell and Barney.
Mhm.
They have a different look to them in terms of explosiveness. That's why they're playing.
All right. Do you have a quick one, Abby? A rapid fire one we could take here?
Yeah, maybe.
Do the condiment one.
That was our final one. I wanted to
Don't
get
give
one
away
more
my
in.
last question.
Don't take her
Spoiler.
thunder, Sipple.
Yeah, I
Okay,
her-
this
I
one
told
can
her
be
that.
quick.
I did.
Does Nebraska need to seriously look into replacing Alvano, or does he need more time?
Yeah,
That's a quick one.
Who you replaced him with?
Yeah.
There's no waiver wire.
The guy that got taken off a kickoff specialist.
Right.
And are there other is the timing on the snap? Are there other issues we don't know
Yeah,
about?
could be.
I think that's what we don't know.
Well, clearly
point.
there are, because Matt Rule has said it multiple times. There's snapping issues.
Yep.
Like whatever reason, they're having issues with in the kicking game, the place kicking
The
game,
rhythm and the
with the
timing
long
of the
snapping
snap.
with Camden Waitaki. So add that. Like if Alvano wasn't already dealing enough with his confidence, now he's got to worry about if he's going to have a good snap or not. Like worst case scenario in that regard.
I don't mind saying this. This is a big week for Ed Foley. It is.
Huge.
You got to get. This is you and I. You can get things kind of together a little.
You and I, who blocked a punt, scored a touchdown last week.
Yeah, get it together now.
And they'll go after it.
Yeah, you don't want to be the units that hold this team back.
Yeah.
It's a good team. This is
There's
a good
been
football team.
positives with special teams on, and
It's
unfortunate that the two
There
or three
have.
negatives shine that over the top of that.
Yeah,
But
there has been. The return game is not the punt return game is number one on my list.
Well,
Aggressive. That's 8 returns for 41 yards.
They've
by
almost already eclipsed last year's total.
48 yards last year total. 41 this year already. Great job by Isaiah Garcia Castaneda. They've asked him clearly to be more aggressive. He's being aggressive.
That one he picked up that was bouncing,
Yeah.
he would have rolled probably the 25. He picks it up, they get it at the 50.
Yeah, he's handling that really
That's
well.
a
so far.
30-yard play.
Yeah, and you know that's coaching too, because I'm sure they've said to him, "We're returning punts this year. Okay,
Mhm.
go get it."
And Buschini, too. He's looking like a
yeah.
2022 form so far.
Yeah. God bless Buschini.
all right, final question, Abby Barmore.
If you could only eat one condiment for the rest of your life, what would it be?
God, that's a tough one.
Not really.
Ranch.
So for the record, I do not eat ranch. I don't eat mayonnaise at all. Like it's and I have two of my best friends, Derek Zimmerman and Tom Sonneregger, same way. That I don't know why, but I don't like that.
What happened to you?
You don't like ranch?
I don't like ranch.
Did something happen?
I just don't like it.
You don't like ranch?
No.
What happened to me?
What happened to me?
Sybil's so concerned.
How do you not like ranch?
It's crazy.
I'm a big
There's
fan
some childhood
of
trauma with ranch.
Jardinera, the sweet peppers.
I'm sorry.
Jardinera pepper. How do you pronounce that?
Oh,
Jardinera.
You like
Yeah.
that?
I like that. That's probably one of my favorite. Like put that on a sandwich.
Okay. I want you to ask yourself this question. Could you live in a world without ketchup?
I mean,
No.
Yes.
No.
I could.
No.
because I'd
How
have
about
ranch.
salt? Could you
No,
live in a world
no,
without salt?
not
salt's
salt.
not a
Salt's not a
condiment.
condiment.
It's
It's
not
a
Salt's an
seasoning.
essential food staple.
You don't put
It's a
salt on a
food
hot dog.
It's already got enough salt.
I
in
put
it.
salt on just about everything.
But if you're talking about
Splenda.
Yeah.
a sauce, like it's ranch, there's zero question. My next would be mustard.
Really.
You like mustard more
Love
than ketchup?
mustard. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Fuhr's cheese spread. Is that a condiment?
Sure.
Wouldn't want to live without it.
You have that in your fridge.
Oh yeah. Fuhr's cheese spread's
I
ridiculous.
envision your fridge not having much in it, but that
No,
must
I
be-
don't keep a lot.
It's just
There's just ketchup in that in there.
Ketchup and Fuhr's cheese spread.
an
and
old loaf of
Corona.
bread. Sipple's fridge would be worth a show itself.
it's just the heels of the bread.
I think we should do a food show. I think stop.
All right. When we come back, we'll close the show with some Big
got
Ten
problems,
breakdown.
Sean.
And you're listening here to the
Not
Husker
like
Online
ranch.
Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Again, the Husker Online Show brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They are a company looking out for you, your loved ones. When you don't always have the time to assist that loved one in your life, whether it's grocery shopping, picking up prescriptions, cooking, all the things that you want to be there for the people that you love the most in your life but don't have the time to do, StayHome.Care has you covered in all of those areas. They're a great local company. Check them out at their website. Again, that's StayHome.Care. And also Stephen M. Sipple, brought to you by who?
Well, Larson Motors, you guys have probably are like me in that you've been struck by how gorgeous it is outside.
Mhm.
It just seems like a good time to get a new car, to spend some money. Just push yourself a little bit. Go to Nebraska City if you're looking for a new vehicle. Do that thing where you take a new experience. Go to Larson Motors in Nebraska City. It's one of the Midwest only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. And you know the major brands: Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. Never has been easier. Start your new experience today. Get ready now. LarsonMotorGroup.com. No S, just Larson. LarsonMotorGroup.com, or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Go to the lot. Larson Motors, real people.
Real deals.
I saw one of those Larson Hummers this week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Where did you see it?
Well, one of the owners of Larson, who lives in Lincoln, Ryan, he's driving one of the Hummers.
Oh, of course he is.
I saw him this morning at school drop-offs.
Oh, really?
And that thing's a beast.
Is it a beast?
A battery-operated Hummer.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I'll
that would freak you
maybe
right
we
out
get
if I
Ryan to let you drive that for a week.
if I rolled up here in a battery-operated Hummer. I don't even know if you guys could.
We'd have to keep the
operate.
ladies away from you.
You already do.
We need security detail. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's get
Yeah,
into
let's get into some football
we
talk. How about that?
Let's talk some
Big-
ball.
Big Ten games last week. I want to just run through the games and everybody kind of make their comment on what jumped out last week. You had Michigan getting handled by Texas.
Oh boy.
That was really the game of the week in a lot of
It
respects.
was.
31-12. The Longhorns going to Ann Arbor and just make a mockery of Texas. Rutgers over Akron, 49-17. They have the leading rusher now in the conference. He's had another 208 yards on 27 carries for Mongai, their running back. Penn State ekes by Bowling Green, 34-27. Minnesota gets back on track against Rhode Island, 48-0. Washington is 2-0 with a 30-9 win over Eastern Michigan. They play Washington State this week. Iowa State upsets the Hawkeyes in Kinnick Stadium. They had over 250 yards of offense in the second half on
The Cyclones.
on Iowa's vaunted defense to win 20-19.
That's a lot.
it was 266 and a half.
It's a lot.
Michigan State with another surprise win. They beat Maryland 27-24 in College Park. Wisconsin 27-13 winners over South Dakota. Illinois knocks off 19th ranked Kansas 23-17. Obviously, Nebraska was a 28-10 win over Colorado. Ohio State 56-0 winner. Oregon with a 37-34 close win over Boise State. And that's a good Boise State team. USC 48-0 winners over Utah State. Indiana a 77-0 winner over Western Illinois. They're now 2-0. And then Duke on Friday night wins in Evanston. And Northwestern easily could have won that game. They've made a quarterback change now in Evanston. They lost to Duke 26-20. Your thoughts? What jumped out about that week?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I can speak with authority about Michigan and Texas because I watched the game in its entirety. Michigan has big problems at quarterback. When you look at his numbers, they're okay. Davis Warren, he's not what they need. They can't play Alex Orji because all he can do is run. So they're stuck. I don't know why Michigan didn't go to the transfer portal to get a quarterback. It might be because of all the tumult.
The timing.
Yeah, the timing.
Like Kyle McCord at Michigan right now would make them look like a whole different team.
Oh, God, that's a good point. That's a great point. They don't have the quarterback, but it's not just that. They look lost. They don't have Corum now. They don't have that running back. They have a new offensive line that doesn't look great.
They don't have Harbaugh.
Texas, they don't have Harbaugh. Texas offensively just went up and down the field on a
they're the real
vaunted
deal.
defense. Yeah.
They also,
Texas
don't have,
is
they
real
also
good.
don't have Connor Stallings.
Yeah, they don't have
I mean,
Connor
a lot of Michigan's problems were because Texas is that far ahead. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, so they've always had the skill guys, but now they got an offensive line. Like,
Texas?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
The way that they dominated up front on both sides of the ball against Michigan, especially after what Michigan did last year, like that's how they won. That's how they won a national title. That struck me more than anything. The other big standout for me is Oregon. Once again, getting away by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah.
This is a team that I know you
don't
and
know
I
what to
said
make of
we both thought they were national title
Right.
contenders. And
Well,
now they were 18.5 points favorites
Herbstreit
over
picks
Boise
them
State.
to win it all. Kirk Herbstreit.
Yeah.
None
So I
other
mean,
than
like
Kirk
this is not
Herbstreit.
like a
They barely won the Idaho State Championship here the last 2 weeks. They
yeah.
played
So
the two Idaho teams.
they've got some issues to figure out. This was a team that I thought was just going to like blitz these teams, and now all of a sudden they're 2-0, but like probably
No,
the least comfortable 2-0 they could possibly imagine.
Yeah, they won that game against Boise State largely because they got a punt return for a touchdown and a kickoff return for a touchdown. How often does that happen?
Gave up 34 to Boise State.
Yeah,
Well, remember, Washington beat them twice last year,
it's true.
and they were underdogs in those wins.
Mhm.
All right, let's get into week 3. Michigan gets a redemption game, hopefully against Arkansas State. The big one, though, is big noon kickoff, is Alabama goes to Camp Randall. They're a 15.5 point favorite in that matchup. Illinois hosts Central Michigan. The Illini have a great chance to come into Lincoln 3-0 and be ranked. This is a sneaky good game, too. Notre Dame goes to Purdue on
That's a good game.
CBS. It's a 2:30 game.
Yep.
And, for Nebraska will play Purdue in a couple of weeks. So that's a big one.
That's
That kind of maybe tips the scale of what the atmosphere could be like in West Lafayette.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
when
a
we're
good
out
game.
there. Nevada goes to Minnesota. The Gophers are 16.5 point favorite. Oregon goes to Oregon State. They are a 16 point road favorite, which I'll say this, that's a lot of points.
Especially with the way they've been playing.
For Oregon to go into Oregon State and win by 16 plus would be
seems
impressive.
like a lot. It seems like a lot.
Michigan State a surprising 2-0. They'll be 3-0. They play Prairie View. That's a BTN game at 2:30. Washington State, Washington. That is another big one. Both teams 2-0. Troy, a sneaky under the radar game because those teams have talent in the Sun Belt. They'll come in and spread Iowa out. They play Iowa at 3 on FS1. Eastern Illinois at Northwestern. Indiana is the night game against UCLA. Both teams undefeated. And then Nebraska, Northern Iowa, and then Maryland at Virginia on the ACC network. The Terps are a 2.5 point favorite in Virginia for that.
This isn't a gambling show. We're never going to make it a gambling show. But if you're interested in it, load up on Alabama. 15.5. They'll win by more than 15.5. And I say that because Wisconsin looks really ordinary, and they look really ordinary at quarterback. They don't have the running back that they typically
And
have.
their fans aren't really that engaged with it right now.
It looks like dead zone. Alabama probably will roll in there and beat them pretty
And then
bad.
they might have 15,000 Bama fans that go up there.
That's it's a fascinating game. I mean, I give Wisconsin credit for being ambitious. It's a very aggressive schedule move, but it's not gonna be a good Saturday in Camp Randall. It's not.
That Oregon game obviously is intriguing just because of the rivalry aspect of it and them being such heavy favorites after a subpar first 2 weeks. But then that Iowa game, like Sean mentioned, Troy, they got guys. They're like basically a bunch of SEC castoffs down there. And you're talking about an Iowa team that has looked pedestrian in a lot of ways, especially offensively. Like the vibe around Iowa City right now is bad. Losing that game was a pretty significant blow to them, just not only because of the rivalry, but because that was a game they were supposed to win.
I would be surprised
and they lost
if
it
Iowa
with the
wins
collapse.
by the spread's 22.
That's what I'm saying.
I would
like,
be surprised if they cover that number.
I mean, they basically had to defend McNamara again this week. Like there's questions about him if they were going to change the starting quarterback, and it just seems like they got a lot of tumult, as you like to say, going on.
Indiana too is worth watching because that's another trip for us coming up down the road.
Oh, that's scary.
Indiana's winning that game,
and they could go into the Rose Bowl and be 3-0.
They're winning that game.
Yep.
Robin's like the Indiana.
I told you.
Google
guys.
me.
I'm telling
Google me. Google me.
What's that mean?
Tell him. Wow, Sean.
No, but
You remember what happened in the summer when
'cause
Signetti?
you're a big Indiana guy.
when Signetti said,
Google.
"Look at my record. Google me." Yeah, people think his name is Google Me. It's actually Signet.
He went full Scott Frost 2018, but he's trying to back it up a little bit.
Yeah, he's backing it up.
I'm just saying they score points.
Oh, that trip for Nebraska is scary. It's going to be scary.
Hearing that it's leaning towards an 11 a.m. game. Well, fine. We don't know, but that's great for the road.
That's
team.
great for Nebraska.
Is it?
Yes, it's great for the road team to play early. Don't you know that from traveling on the road all
Come
these
on, when you
years?
play under the lights in a prime time game.
I've learned. I remember Bo Pelini's always saying that if you go to Purdue or Indiana and you play at 11, it's so dead that it almost works against you. It's just so dead.
I think the students aren't there, the fan, and then I think if Nebraska's undefeated going to Purdue, that's
we do not agree on this. I don't agree with the 11.
So you'd rather play in Columbus, Ohio at night than at noon.
If I was a player, I would. If I was a player, I put myself in a player's shoes. I would much rather play a night game anywhere than play a day game.
One time they almost won there, it was an 11 a.m.
Right. I would not, if I were a player, there's no way I'd want to play an 11 a.m. game in West Lafayette in front of nobody. Yeah, I would much rather play at night. Much rather. Not even close.
Except when Purdue plays better teams at home, they'd like beat Ohio State, put 55 on them.
Yeah. I'd rather, I'm just telling you, as a coach or a player, I'd rather be at
All right.
One
night owl.
No, it's not a night owl. It's fun. There's people that give a damn. It's a live. It's live. You're on a stage. I bet if you talk to Nebraska players, talk to 100, 80 would say we'd rather play at night.
I think a lot of guys like to play on the road early so they get
out of
better.
there.
You don't want to get
I
home.
think they want to get home at
3
3 in the morning. Yeah.
Come on, man.
You think they're really thinking about that?
All right.
I do.
On that note, we will be back on live again, probably by midnight. If we can get on earlier, we will. But join us for Husker Online postgame live after Nebraska, Northern Iowa. We peaked out with over 2,500 live viewers this past week, and another big week on the Husker Online channel. So check us out. Subscribe to Husker Online. Check us out on our YouTube channel, podcast channels as well. For Steve Sipple and Robin Washett, I'm Sean Callahan.